Guess what? The world is kind of broken, and I don't just mean in the ways of politics and all the other nonsense we've got going on. I don't want to talk about that. I really can't talk about that right now. It's just too soon to talk about that. But there are ways that the world is kind of broken right now, and you and I have an opportunity, my friends, to make a real difference. Earlier this week, I did a video called What's on Your Tombstone? It was sort of a life coaching for the masses kind of thing where I was encouraging people to volunteer and do good and to help humanity. And even yesterday, I did a video which started out on being social as you approach a certain age, and it wound up talking about volunteerism. So I guess, well, this is volunteer week, so let's just kind of go with it, okay? Let's start with a statement. Climate change is real. Now, I know, stop it, don't you dare quote QAnon nonsense back to me. Climate change is real. Weather is not climate, the climate is changing. Now, before we get into a big argument over how it started, whether it was human-made or sunspots or because some anteater farted in a forest, it doesn't matter how it started, it's here. It is very much here. Every scientist in the world can tell you it's here, and in fact, when I live in South Florida, as I do, I can definitely tell you it's here. So, what are we going to do about it? Now, I want to give you a couple of stories, and yes, this is related to people of 50 and 60 years old because they're very much a part of the stories I want to tell you. Now, like I say, I live in Miami. We are down here in Hurricane Central. That's our flavor of natural disaster. We used to have hurricane parties. You know, we'd get category 1s, category 2s. We'd run to the liquor store, have a big old party. People would shake their heads at us, and we'd go along our merry way. We don't get 1s and 2s anymore. We get 3s and 4s and 5s. Category 5 is just pretty much Armageddon. It's complete devastation. Now, back in 2017, we had a 4. Category 4 rolled across the Florida Keys where I lived. Category 4 basically put most of the island chain down there underwater. And anything that was on land suddenly was in another place on land, either where we were or in the backcountry, or it got put underwater. It killed the corals, it killed the seagrasses, it killed all the things like the mangroves that kind of keep the next hurricane from doing anything harmful to us. It did a lot of damage. It did a lot of damage to people, not just their lives, but also their mental state, their mentality, everything. It was horrible. Now, my girlfriend Nikki and I were down there volunteering almost nonstop. We actually helped co-found a volunteer organization that was doing marine cleanup and restoration. We were just pulling tons and tons and tons of crap out of the backcountry and the canals on kayaks. Now, you're probably saying, well, if I'm 62 years old, I don't know that I can do that. And that's where the story comes in to you. So, yep, there were folks like me who are out there dragging 100-pound, 500-pound things back through the water. But you know, we also had people like this one old guy well into his 80s with an oxygen tank sitting under an umbrella, and he was sorting recyclables. If people brought in a bag that they were collecting out there, he would go through and pick the bottles and the plastic and the cans out, and he'd throw the rest away. That was his job. We had people who were manning the information tents and signing people up. We had people who were just walking around handing out water or making sure everyone was okay. There is no level of physicality. If you can sit under a tent in a chair, you have the physical ability to volunteer. And believe me, we needed those people as much as we needed the morons like me who would just go out into the whatever, and some of us weren't too bright. But now there was another hurricane I want to tell you about because this is even more important. Hurricane Michael. A year later, it came through the Florida Panhandle, and it came through as a high-end 5. By the way, there is no 6. They're talking about it. I've never seen anything like Michael. Whereas a 4 like Irma just simply jumbles everything up and throws it around. 5 like Michael just scrapes everything clean and puts it in a giant pile. You've never seen devastation like it. It looks like a World War II atomic bomb video where everything just goes whoosh. Well, we went up to the Panhandle to see what we could do to help, and we ran into this family. Now, bear in mind, this is very rural up there, and the family, they had a place called the Crystal Cottage. They were known as the hippies out in the country. Well, they saw what was happening all around them. And by the way, most of their property was just utterly damaged. But they went and got a whole bunch of big blue tents and set them up. And anybody who was bringing volunteer and donation and goods in, they put them in the tent and they give them away. They were cooking food, 3 meals a day for anybody who was hungry. They set up 2 moon bounces on generators just so the kids would have some semblance of normalcy in there. And we showed up and helped them. Now, the lady that ran the place, she was well into her 70s and not exactly spry. Her husband well into her 80s, and he was far, far from spry. The 2 adult children, one of them was blind, and still they served their neighborhood. They did everything they could, from cooking to sorting to, you know what they needed more than anything? Was the people who were coming in, they just needed someone to talk to. They just needed someone to look at them and have a little compassion and to feel like they weren't alone. Anybody could do that. So that is kind of my pitch to you. Now, you don't have to do disaster stuff like I do. It's just, I don't even know how I fell into it. It's what I do. But there's volunteerism everywhere. You've got a food bank. You've got, the library. You name it. There are more openings for volunteers than there are people to fill them. And to bring this around back to what I was starting, the planet needs us. The planet it's given up so much, and we've taken so much from it. We've got to start giving back. And if you can volunteer in that area, that's even better. Now, I mean, how can you do that? Obviously fixing things like what I do, cleaning up, go find a river, lake, whatever is closest to you, go clean it up, go clean up a park. Just do personal things, use less water, use less plastic, just be more mindful of the things you do so you don't contribute more to the problem. You wouldn't believe how much that helps. People think, well, just turning off the water for an extra 15 seconds every time I brush my teeth, that's not going to help. You want to bet? It really, really does. So I know I'm rambling, but this is a passion of mine because we are humanity. We live on the same planet. Now, I do want to mention one last thing, because when I went up to the Panhandle to volunteer, now, those that know me, I don't have a political party. I do tend to lean a little bit towards the progressive side. I'm an atheist. Almost every single person who was whacked by Hurricane Michael was a God-fearing, red flag-waving Republican conservative. It is deep, deep, deep red up there. And you know what? I didn't care. They didn't care. It's not about party, politics, religion. It doesn't matter any of that. People are hurting, people help. And I've seen that in the reverse as well, where you just got to dig deep and think this is a bigger thing. This is for humanity. This is for our larger species. This is for the big home that we all share in common. And at some point, we are going to get to the point where we stop fixing things and we start improving things. And that indeed is going to be a wonderful, wonderful time and place for all of us. With that, I hope you all stay healthy. I hope you stay happy. I hope my words have inspired you, and do what you can. And we'll talk to you soon.